It's cheaper to keep her. We've all heard that saying, and in business, it is no different. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing the best practices to keep your employees happily employed. Lady bosses, are you working even after putting the kids to bed but still not getting results?
Are you tired of spending money on ads that aren't getting engagement?
Do you feel burdened that you aren't fulfilling your purpose in life because you are so consumed with work?
I'm your host, Brooke Bolts. I'm an attorney and founder of Bolts Legal. I started my business and in 1 year was bringing in 7 figures and am now bringing in multi-7 figures.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Bolts, owner of Bolts Media. I've helped many businesses build their online presence and increase their revenue through digital marketing.
Want to hear how we did it?
We are here to help you achieve your goals personally, professionally, and spiritually.
So kick off your high heels, sit back, and let's ignite that passion.
We're Miss Biz, where we're putting the Miss in biz.
Let's get biz done. The other day I was talking to a friend about some of the things that we've done at Bolts Legal for our employees, and they said, "Can I come work for you?" And it was a joke, of course, but it made me think that I have learned and grown a lot over the years in finding new ways to help appreciate my staff and add to their job satisfaction. So I thought it would be a good episode to kind of share where we are and the things that we've done. Maybe that can help other people to improve upon their employee retention as well.
Yeah, employee turnover can have a major impact on the success of your organization. In fact, 1/3 of new employees quit after only about 6 months. That is a lot of people. And it costs an employer an average of 33% of an employee's yearly salary for their exit. And that's not including the time that it takes to restructure tasks or the excessive time that you're, as the business owner, maybe performing some of these tasks yourself.
At the law firm I used to work at, they would tell us that an attorney did not become profitable for the firm until they had been there for, I think it was 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And so if 1/3 of the employees, according to that study, are leaving after 6 months, that is a huge loss of profitability because they're never making it to the point where they actually become profitable for the firm. And a study found that 75% of the reasons that people leave could be prevented. So this is where we have to constantly be looking at ourselves, and not just in our personal development, not just in the business efficiency, but looking at the satisfaction of our employees and how we can always be trying to improve their lives as well.
Absolutely. As a business owner, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day operations, what needs to be done, timelines, deadlines that need to be met, customer satisfaction. That's something that business owners take a huge amount of time to reflect on. But really being able to look at your employees' satisfaction is going to be something that can either make or break your business. And one of the most common reasons employees leave their jobs is because they feel like they're not being challenged at work.
I was surprised to read that because I've never heard that before. I've heard other reasons that were common for people to leave their jobs, but when I thought back in my own experience, there have been jobs that I've left because I was bored or I wasn't feeling like I was challenged. In fact, when I decided to go to law school, a big part of that reason was because I was working at a government job that I didn't feel like I was being challenged in the long term, and I didn't feel like I had a lot of room to move up because things were based on seniority and I was the lowest in seniority, and it just felt like it was going to be such a long time before I could ever move up, and I just really wasn't being challenged to to my fullest capability and felt like I was going to be bored if I stayed there too long.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. We've all heard people say, oh, I was stuck in a dead end job. That means it wasn't going anywhere. But I've also heard that people leave their jobs because they're not trained well enough, or because, the pay just isn't worth the amount of work, in their opinion. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing some different ways that you can help improve employee retention. Number one on the list is communication. So, Brooke, what do you do with your team at Bolts Legal?
Well, they say that communication is key for a marriage, and it's also key for your business relationships. When it comes to staff meetings and staff communication, something that I've implemented this year really is to start doing quarterly staff meetings. And the staff meetings are not just me presenting, they are giving everybody an opportunity to share what their recommendations are and ways that they think that we can improve. So opening up that line of communication in the staff meeting has proven to be valuable, and I recognized that when I did the individual staff meetings at the end of the year, and I asked them, how could we improve? Do you have any ideas or recommendations for us? And they said, oh, I already discussed it at the staff meeting. So that was an indication to me that the staff meetings were valuable because we already had taken note of their recommendations and already started implementing processes and procedures to improve upon those things. But the individual meetings are equally important because you need to be asking your staff on a regular basis, what are your goals personally? Where do you want to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years? Because if they can see that vision of where they are and where they're going and know that you are there to support them along the way, they are much more likely to stay long term because they feel like they are working to achieve that goal.
Absolutely. And you're going to learn a lot more about them in those individualized meetings and figure out, okay, well, what can I do to help them learn the things that they want to learn, or, incorporate some of the tasks that they really do enjoy doing. One thing that I really like to do with my team is I like to take them out to dinner, something very informal, and it's us just really talking about life. And I can kind of pick up from all of the senses, are they overwhelmed? Because a lot of times I feel like if I have those individualized meetings, or if I, pick up the phone and call them, a lot of times that they tell me that they want to hear things that I want to hear. Like, yes, I'll take on more work. But when I have a meeting, or not a meeting, when I have dinner with them, I can really find out what's going on in their life. They open up a lot. And then I can see, okay, well, they are under a lot of stress. So maybe, I shouldn't hand them over, 5 new clients, or maybe we should divvy up the work a little bit differently, until they get through this rough period in their life. So I really enjoy the dinners, because I feel like it's more relaxed, and I feel like it's more relationship building as well versus just centered around work.
You can also do anonymous surveys that you send out through Google to allow people to express their feedback on their job satisfaction, and that can give you an idea of how they really feel if you think that they're not going to be fully forthcoming in a face-to-face meeting. One of the success stories that I have from an individual meeting is one of my employees expressed to me in an individual meeting that she wanted to work to be in a managerial or supervisory position. And I didn't know that before the meeting. And so I was able to tell her in that meeting, well, here's what I would look for to see that someone is ready to take on that type of role. And it really is that they're kind of doing it already. In other words, you're already a go-to person for the other staff. When they have a question, they already naturally go to you because they see you as someone who is not only knowledgeable, but open and willing to help. And so when I gave her that feedback, she really took it to heart, because before that, she was kind of a more introverted person. She had her 1 or 2 friends in the office that she tended to navigate towards. But for the general people in the firm, I don't know that everybody saw her as a go-to person back a year or two ago. But when I gave her that feedback, she really took it to heart and started making herself available to help other people. And so much so that in the next quarter, it was either the next quarter or one after that, she was voted as Employee of the Quarter by the employees. And the reason that they wrote on their nomination form was that she is always willing to help, that she goes and above and beyond to help me. And I was just so touched by the fact that she received that feedback, implemented it, improved upon herself, and then it was evident to all of the employees when they nominated her for that role.
Absolutely. Well, you took the time to invest in her, because not only did you hear what she wanted to do or what her future goals were, but you also took the time to help guide her so that those goals would be obtainable. And in fact, one survey found that 94% would stay at their current employer if they had invested in their long-term learning.
If you enjoy the Miss Biz podcast but still have questions or need advice, we have some exciting news for you. Join us for Miss Biz Connects. Miss Biz Connects is a weekly 1-hour Zoom call on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
This is 1 hour each week dedicated to you. We want to meet you and put our brains together to help you grow personally, professionally, and spiritually.
To access the meeting link, visit us on our social media pages at Miss Biz Podcast or send us an email to missbizpod@gmail.com.
Join us this Friday and let's grow the Miss Biz Nation. Yes, long-term learning, I think, is something that we all value. That's why we read personal development books. That's why we go to conferences. That's why we go to church on Sundays, because we want to be learning new things all the time and improving. And so if your employees feel as though they are learning and growing in their positions at the company, that will add to their job satisfaction. And some ways that you can do that. And Rachel, I think, do you have an employee or a client of yours who invests in people in their long-term learning?
Yes. So I have a client that owns a med spa, and one of their injectors is always going to do different training. So it could be filler training or Botox training or training on different lasers or skincare routines. But that employer also has, some sort of agreement to where they will continue to work for them for X amount of time, or they will have to pay back all of that training and the costs associated with that.
But that's great to give people the opportunity to continue to learn at the expense of the employer so that they can keep benefiting the company through that additional knowledge. And I've done the same thing in terms of helping people to get their paralegal certifications. I generally pay for that, not for their actual college education, but for the certification itself. I've had different people come in and give trainings to the staff that I pay for as well. And so just continuing to invest in their learning is something that people really value.
Yep. Well, you show your employees that you care about them, because there are certain things that you don't necessarily have to do, but you are doing because you want to help them be the best version of themselves. Number 2 on the list, so we talked about communication as number 1. Number 2 is recognition. And when an employee does not feel valued at work, 75% will look for another job opportunity.
And I've heard before that people will work harder for a title than they will for money. What do you think about that?
I tend to believe that that's true. I know when I was a teacher, I had worked with another young lady who was her title was a word processor. And she was really upset about that because she did so many other things other than, type up memos. She was paying bills, she was ordering supplies. So she fought hard to have that title that kind of encompassed everything that she already was doing.
I agree with this too. When I worked at the large law firm in the past, it was very important to me to achieve the title of partner. And for the first 5 years, that was pretty much, aside from money was still important. I won't say that it wasn't. I was still looking forward to getting raises and bonuses each year. But very close in line with that was achieving the title of partner. I wanted very much so to reach that accomplishment, and I was very focused on it, and it meant a lot to me.
Yeah, well, when I was a teacher, all of the teachers had the same title. So there wasn't a mobility instructor, AT instructor, or what I was doing, teaching business. We were all senior rehabilitation specialist blind, which was kind of a weird title. And I do think that some people had a problem with that, especially some of the highly specialized mobility instructors. They have to go through a lot of training and a lot of certifications in order to teach blind people how to cross an intersection without getting hit. So I do think that having a inclusive job title that gives recognition to maybe all of the various roles that person is doing is something that can help improve employee retention.
So the moral of the story is look at your employees, look what their titles are, and see, especially the ones who are going above and beyond, see if you can beef that title up a little bit. It will go a long way. An example of this is I had a couple of legal assistants who were really doing more than just the title reflected. They were going above and beyond, and so I changed their title to assistant case manager. They're not fully case managers, but they were doing more than just a legal assistant would ordinarily do. So I changed their title to assistant case manager, and they were so excited for that title change. So take a look at that, and if you can beef up the title a little bit, make it sound a little more impressive, people will genuinely value that, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's just recognition.
Yep. A little bit of recognition goes a long way. Another thing that you can do as an employer, or as an employer, is you can offer employee of the quarter or employee of the month. I know when I was a teacher, they had something called the Golden Ladder Award, which happened like on a quarterly basis. And basically it would be, there would be like this little poem or something that came with it, and it said, you climb the next stair up the employee ladder or something like that. And we got a little gold ladder. But Brooke, what do you do at Bold Seagull?
We do employee of the quarter. That's something that I've just started in the last maybe year and a half. And I think everybody really appreciates it, and they get a day off as a reward, and then they get a monetary bonus as well for being the employee of the quarter. So it's something that gives recognition, but also has some monetary benefit tied to it. We also do end of the year Christmas parties. So the recognition is really twofold. It's recognizing people on an individual basis when they do well, and it's also recognizing all the staff in general for the hard work that they put in every year. And so we kind of do something really special for our Christmas party, and we also do a mid-year event where we get out of the office for an afternoon and go do something fun together. So that's another way that I try to recognize and appreciate the employees. And then in addition to that, I try to send individualized messages to the staff, either on their birthday, but sometimes even more often than that. But at least if I know I'm doing it on their birthday, they're getting something from me once a year, where I tell them directly how much I appreciate them and what they do. And then when we have our end of the year meetings, I tell them again, here's the things that you've done that I really value and appreciate.
Yeah, so for me, because my team is a lot smaller, whenever I send their checks for the month, I always write a little note in with their check, and I'm very specific about something that I really appreciated that they did that month, whether it was a new way of, advertising Acuinova or whatever the case may be. I always make sure to be very specific, so that it doesn't become lost, because I feel like the term "I appreciate you," "thank you," I feel like sometimes that can not necessarily get old, but maybe not have the same impact that it once did. So each and every month I write something very specific about what they did and how well they performed.
That's really going above and beyond, in my opinion. That would be a lot for me to do, but I can only imagine how much your staff appreciates that. I mean, to take that extra time to write them a note every month that's personalized and individualized, I mean, that just means the world, I'm sure, to the recipients of those. So next is money. Of course, we know that money is an important factor in retaining employees and keeping happy employees, but it's not just about their salary or their hourly wage. There are other ways to incentivize or to appreciate your staff aside from just purely their hourly wage or their salary. I read the book, and this is what really opened my eyes to this, by Dave Ramsey, that's about leadership in business. And he said that every single employee should have a bonus structure. And that was just something I had never even considered, because in the law firm world, attorneys get bonuses, but the non-attorney staff did not in the world that I had come from. So it just wasn't even something that I had considered. And when I read that book, I started thinking, well, maybe there are some ways to bonus non-attorney staff for their hard work and their efforts. And so I started implementing some bonuses, but there are certain roles that just can't really be quantified in a way to bonus. Like scheduling is an example of that. Receptionist is an example of that. It's hard to quantify what they're doing to be able to structure a bonus. And so I came up with a points-based incentive program where employees can earn these points for doing things that are above and beyond. It may be as simple as sharing one of our Bolts Legal social media posts. If they share it, they earn points. If they participate in an after-hours marketing event, if we have a golf tournament we're sponsoring, for example, if they go work at the event, they get paid for their time, but they also earn these incentive points. So they can earn these points and then cash them in for cash rewards. And it gives everybody an opportunity, regardless of what their role is, to be able to be recognized in a financial way for going above and beyond.
And I think that that's a genius way to get more people on board, to be honest with you, because you are going to have those personality types that they're a little bit more outgoing, and they're going to be a little bit more willing to participate in those after hours events. But by offering an incentive for them to do it, then, you're going to get more participation that way, versus if you're just like, I'll pay you, time and a half just to do this. Not only do they get time and a half, but then they also get to work towards earning these points that they can cash in, so that they can get something that maybe they have really wanted but wouldn't necessarily spend their own money on having. Christmas bonuses are another great incentive. Brooke, I know you have a good story about this.
Yeah, so my friend is a business owner, but she comes from the restaurant world. And so as a restaurant employee and manager in her past, she never earned Christmas bonuses. So now as an employer, she owns a very successful screen printing business. I said, are you paying Christmas bonuses to your employees? This is the first year she's had employees who were non-family members. And she was like, what? I never got a Christmas bonus. And and I recognize that mentality that we have a lot of times is, well, I never got that. Why should I give that? And I struggle with that mentality too, in other ways. And so we had a discussion, and I was like, you got to do it. You got to give a Christmas bonus. And so she talked with the other leaders in the company, and they voted to do it, and they voted on an amount to give. And then she did. She gave the Christmas bonus. And I said, how did it go? And she said, the employees were over the moon, so appreciative. And I said, how did that make you feel? And she said, it made me feel so great. I wish I would have given them more. And so I share that story because it is painful to give. Sometimes December for me is always a painful month to give out so many Christmas bonuses in one foul swoop. It's like doubling or even more my wages that I pay in that month. It is painful to do, but the appreciation that comes on the other side of it and the good feeling you get from helping people really is rewarding and is worthwhile. And I just think about when I was an employee living paycheck to paycheck, even as an attorney making a multi-six-figure income, I still was living paycheck to paycheck because I had so much debt and so many bills that I didn't have any extra money to pay for Christmas gifts. I just didn't. And so if it wasn't for the Christmas bonus that I earned every year, that's what I relied on to be able to buy Christmas gifts for my family. And so I have that same mentality when it comes to my employees, that I don't want them to be in that position where they can't afford to buy Christmas gifts for their family.
Yeah, I think it can make a huge difference, especially if that employee is coming from a job where they didn't necessarily have that kind of treatment before. It can really leave a lasting impact and help them to have a better Christmas for their family too. Another thing that a lot of businesses will offer are benefits. So your health insurance and your matching 401k, those are great incentives. And a lot of times that can be an incentive to even get someone to apply.
Yeah, the health insurance benefits are really important to some people, especially if they have like a medication that they rely on from month to month. They care very much about that. So what I found to be the industry standard in my business is that the employer pays 50% of the employee's health insurance. So I go a little bit above that. I pay 75% of the employee's health insurance, but if they have dependents, they pay 100% of that, which I think is also standard in the industry. So this is a benefit that I didn't always have when we were smaller, and we're still not a huge firm. We're about 15 to 18 people. I didn't always have that benefit, but when I added it in, I definitely know that it has been very much appreciated by the staff, particularly those who have medical needs or medications that they use on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Next on the list is work-life balance. So this is something that's very important. Making sure that you are giving your employees a chance to enjoy their life outside of work. And one way that Brooke does that is by offering personal time off.
Yes. The paid time off, we do 3 weeks of paid time off per year, and that I think is within the standard, maybe even a little higher than the standard. I know of some firms that only do 1 week or some that do 2 weeks, but 3 weeks I think is a fair amount. And that is all inclusive for sick leave, vacation leave, everything.
Skincare for aging and little black dresses, obedient children who clean up the messes, high heels and purses and chocolate galore. Louis Vuitton is our favorite store.
I love learning, but I hate wasting time. So I love the app called Headway. Headway has all kinds of books on it, but they are in summary format. It summarizes each chapter and the key points of that chapter. So I can gain the content of a whole book in about 15 minutes. So I love Headway. I struggled a little bit with this work-life balance thing coming from the defense firm life where we worked all the time. The story that I tell from my prior managing partner that he said when he really gained a lot of respect for me was when was when I gave birth to my daughter. She was born at 25 weeks, which is extremely premature. She only weighed 1 pound. She was in the hospital for just under 4 months. And during that time period, I was still billing 200 hours a month, which is 50 hours a week.
That's insane.
50 hours a week I was billing. And so, that was how you earned respect there, was by working harder and longer hours than everybody else. And so to come and start my own firm where everybody was clocking out and gone at 5 o'clock was a little bit of an adjustment for me, a lot of an adjustment, because my mind wanted to start telling me they're not working hard enough, they're not here long enough, they're not doing enough. And like my old boss used to say, this isn't a bank. We don't work bank hours. And they also used to tell me the reward for good work is more work. And so that's the mindset that I had. And now I had to ask myself, what is the culture that I want to create in my firm? And so I asked myself these questions. I said, well, is the work being done? Is the work being done well? Is the business profitable? Are the employees happy? And the answer to all those questions was yes. And so if we're profitable, the work's being done, the customers are happy, and everything is going well, then what is the reason to impose extra hours on them? It really is just that sense of feeling like everybody's working hard. It's really all. It wasn't, the job was being done well without that. So I came to terms with, all right, I'm going to work on my own thought process, push those thoughts away, and focus on the fact the work's being done, it's being done well, our clients are happy. And if we can do that, working 40 hours a week as a staff, then so be it.
And they're probably going to be more productive and get things done with a smile more if they aren't stretched so thin or working that many hours. I know something that I offer, and this is just because of the type of work that I do, flexible hours. Like, I really don't care if they work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or if they work at 3 a.m. in the morning. The most important thing to me are that the deadlines are met. We have certain deadlines where everything has to be, completed and reviewed by the client. So as long as those deadlines are met, that is something that's fine for me. But I understand that that's not standard, especially if you run a business that, is strictly 9 to 5 dealing with the public.
Yeah, but that, at the end of the day, that mentality is right. If the work is done, then that's what's most important.
Absolutely. And, with those deadlines being done, making sure that they have a manageable workload is something that's really important for satisfaction. If you try to put too much on them or, stretch them farther than they're able to go, they're going to start thinking about, well, can I find somewhere where I will be a little bit more happy? And a lot of times your employees or your team won't tell you that they're unhappy until it's too late.
Feeling like you're doing a good job is important. You want to feel like you're good at your job. And if the workload is so intense that you're not able to do a good job because there's just more work than can be done in the time period you're permitted to work, then you're not going to be satisfied there because you're not going to feel like you're doing your best work. And this is really common for law firms, that the staff and the attorneys are just overwhelmed with very high caseloads. And I never fully understood that because it's just setting them up for failure. It's setting them up to miss deadlines. It's setting them up for clients to be unhappy. And I suppose the reason they do it is because they think that it's going to make the profit margins higher. But at what cost? At the cost of potentially losing business because your customers aren't happy, losing staff because they're overwhelmed and they can't keep up.
Losing cases.
Losing cases, exactly. Losing referrals from other businesses because they know that you can't keep up. In fact, a lot of people who have referred me business have said to me, I was using so-and-so law firm, but they've just gotten too busy that they can't keep up with the cases anymore. So I'm looking for someone else to take on those cases. And if they had been hiring to fill those voids and not overwhelming the staff, the person referring the case would never feel like they had too much.
Right.
Because everything would still be moving smoothly. So for me, if anyone wants to know the key to a successful business, probably above anything else, is making sure your staff have a manageable workload. Now, that doesn't mean that the person who you give 5 tasks to who says, I'm overwhelmed, I can't handle it, like, there is a balance there. I'm not saying that to just cater to people who can't keep up with what's reasonable, but you should have a sense of what's a reasonable workload based on what the other people can handle and based on what you can handle. And so you should have an idea of what's a reasonable amount of work to give them. And if they can't keep up with that reasonable amount of work, then they're probably not a good fit for your business. But to give them more than what's reasonable is where people start to feel like they're failing, feel like they can't do their best work, and when they start to look for other job opportunities.
Absolutely. And making sure that you're matching a personality with a role. This is so important because there's nothing worse than putting someone who is very introverted into like a very outgoing, extroverted role. That person is not going to be happy. That person may be able to adapt, but in most situations, you really want to look at what the person is good at and see, is this going to be a good fit? I know for me, when I am looking to have people come on board, I am looking at what their skills are, and what they enjoy doing. My copywriter, she loves writing. So, I'm going to use somebody that loves writing, opposed to someone else who, may only truly like graphic arts.
So assessing what their personality style is up front and then matching them with a role where they can be successful is also key to employee retention, because they'll feel like they're doing their best job because they're using their strengths.
Yes.
Also, micromanaging is not a good thing to do if you want to keep your employees happy, but it can be hard to avoid doing, especially if you have newer people who aren't yet doing things the way you want them to be done. A good example of this is when I was an associate attorney at the large law firm that I keep referring to, that was there for 9 years. When I was there was a supervising attorney who oversaw one of my friends. And I remember going into his office and he just had this defeated look on his face. And on his desk was a report he had written and he had turned it into a supervisor. And I looked at it even for just a second and I could see that there was red handwriting all over this piece of paper. I mean, just everywhere. Is as if she had changed every word on the paper practically. And I said, wow, sorry, that's going to take you a lot of time to revise that. And he said to me, this is my 4th revision.
Yeah, that's not encouraging at all.
And as a billing attorney, that's like a nightmare because you can only bill, let's say, an hour for that report. So if you have to revise it 4 different times and it takes you an hour to revise it each time, now you're spending 4 hours on something you can only bill 1 hour for. So it has a whole trickle down effect on your job satisfaction because now you've got to find a way to make up those lost hours through billing other tasks. So that was an example to me of micromanagement where every word had to be perfect. And in reality, it was being sent to an insurance company who was probably going to stick it in a file and maybe gloss over it within like 10 seconds. I mean, it wasn't the Declaration of Independence type of a report. And so my heart went out to him that he had to deal with that type of micromanagement in that situation. I will say he probably became a much better writer as a result of it. But at the same time, he really struggled to find satisfaction in a job where he felt like he was failing all the time because he wasn't doing things the way she wanted them to be done. So being a micromanager is something I think we all have to fight as business owners because we want everything to be done well within our business. But what I think is a good philosophy, this is how my parents raised me, was you have unlimited freedom until you abuse it. And so I try to give my employees freedom to we have systems and policies and procedures, but within those systems and policies and procedures, they have freedom on what they want to do first, what they want to do next, how they want to write things. They have freedoms on how they go about their day-to-day tasks. And if there's mistakes being made, if deadlines aren't being met, then that's when I come in to start to try to fix things and manage them in a more hands-on approach. Aside from that, if the work's being done and it's being done well and timely, then I'm going to give them as much freedom as I can.
Yeah, don't be breathing down their neck because there is nothing worse than feeling as an employee that every single move that you make is being critiqued and viewed with, a lens of a glass that's half empty. So give your employees some freedom, cheer them on. If they need a little bit of guidance, then come in and give them some guidance. But you'd be surprised if you give them a little bit of independence and space just at what they're able to do by having that freedom, that creativity.
We're all about that case, no trouble. All about that case, no trouble. All about that case, no trouble. All about that case.
At Bolts Legal, we are all about your case. Text or call to schedule a free consultation for all your legal needs. boltslegal.com.
Another thing is, in terms of satisfaction, talking to your employees respectfully. A little bit of respect can go a long way. If you are, and even sometimes just being level-headed with them. I know when I was a teacher, I had a supervisor who, I think she was a little mentally ill, but I had a supervisor who would 1 minute tell me you did a great job with this. I loved the email. I loved, how you handled working with that student. And then literally like the next hour come in and say, don't ever do what you did before or whatever you just did. That is not acceptable. And it got to the point where I didn't know which supervisor I was going to have, if I was going to have the nice one or if I was going to have the one who was just very negative all the time. So be respectful and make sure that you're being practical as well.
Something to keep in mind when you're talking to your staff is just adding a please or a little smile emoji can go a long way. And also in high stress environments, and this is something that I struggle with a lot, if I think that a mistake has been made, my immediate go-to response is frustration and questioning. And so it is a constant struggle for me I have to constantly be in control of my thoughts and my actions to make sure that I'm talking respectfully to people. And one of the ways that I do that is reminding myself that anything that I say to them has a greater impact than what it does on me. I may say something negative or disrespectful, and I'm going to forget about it and move on in 5 minutes. But that person who received it is probably going to think about it for the rest of that day. It's going to certainly consume their thoughts and make them less productive at work. It's going to probably go home with them. They're going to probably think about it all the way until they go to sleep. They may even dream about it, wake up not wanting to come to work because they're still being bothered by it. And it may linger with them for days on end because of a comment that you made and forgot about right after making it. And so I try to be aware that as a business owner, the things you say to your staff carries a lot of weight in their minds. And so taking that extra step to try to be respectful is worthwhile. You really don't want people harboring on the things that you've said to make them less productive and make them be troubled by it at night. Most of the time, if it's because of a mistake, they're already being hard on themselves because they made a mistake. They already feel terrible about having made that mistake. So for you to make it that much worse, it just makes their process of getting over it that much more difficult.
And a lot of times as a business owner, we can get so caught up in like the day-to-day processes and the tasks at hand that we don't even necessarily realize that when we're telling Sally to do something that we're being rude, so just taking the time to think about, what is the best way to communicate with this person? Is it by just a simple please, or if it's by, just saying good morning, instead of just getting right down to the chase, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, so spend some time really nurturing and cultivating that relationship so that you can have a bond with your employees that's truly unbreakable.
And things get misinterpreted and misconstrued many times when it's in writing through an email or a message or text or whatever. So be aware of that. You kind of have to be a little bit more flowery in those type of communications than you would if you were talking verbally, because there's no tone of voice or no body language to interpret. And so they can be really misunderstood. And I know that's happened to me many times. I've had people tell me before, your emails seem kind of snippy. And it's just because I'm just like, hey, can you do this? Like I got to get it sent out and move on to the next thing. And I'm not intending it to be that way, but it does come across that way sometimes. So just learn from my mistakes and try to be a little bit more considerate when sending things in written format.
So these are the things that we've outlined, not only through our research, but also our experience that helps to build a strong relationship with your employees. So we want to hear from you. What has worked and maybe what hasn't?
Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. Isaiah 41:10.
We appreciate you and are honored to be on this journey with you. We can't wait to help you, to encourage you, and show you how to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually.
If you found Miss Biz helpful, please leave a review and share with others.
You can follow us on social media at Miss Biz Podcast.
For legal questions or services, please visit boltslegal.com.
And for digital marketing needs, please visit boltsmedia.com. Let's get biz done.